of carrying out repetitive tasks in your workbook. It's a way of storing a sequence of keystrokes so that later on you could run the sequence again with a single keystroke. And that could be formatting, setting print options, and many other tasks that you would rather automate if possible to save time. You can assign a macro to run from a button on your ribbon, from the Quick Access toolbar, or an object in your workbook, or by using a shortcut key. But before you start working on macros, it would be helpful to add the Developer tab to the ribbon. So I'll right-click on the ribbon and click Customize the ribbon. Then tick Developer and OK. Now I have a new tab in the ribbon to work with. In this tutorial, we'll look at the first group of buttons in the code group. Visual Basic refers to the language Excel uses to create code. When you record a macro, the coding of your actions is written in Visual Basic, meaning that you don't have to write it yourself, but you can edit the coding later on in the Visual Basic editor if you need to. The data on my spreadsheet has been imported from a text file and I need to carry out several actions to format it better. So instead of having to do this again and again, I'm going to record myself carrying out these actions and I'll test it out on the data behind this sheet. So to record a macro, either click on Record Macro on the Developer tab or click on the tiny button at the bottom of the screen next to Ready. Give your macro a name, but don't use spaces or special characters such as dots or dashes, and it must start with a letter rather than a number. The only special character you can use is an underscore. I'm going to assign a shortcut key to this, so Control has already been selected and I'll use Shift R. Then I need to decide where I'm going to store the macro. In this workbook, in a new workbook, or in the Personal Macro workbook. If I choose the Personal Macro workbook, this macro would run on any workbook in future, but I'll leave it in this workbook. And I'll type a short description in the box at the bottom. As soon as I click OK, every action I do will be recorded. So the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of formatting. Going to highlight the headings and apply some colour to make it clear they're headings. I'm going to sort out that column D and make sure it's a short date that's applied, and I'll just auto fit. And I'm going to format those numbers from F to I to make sure they all have 2 decimal points. I'll use comma style for quickness. Then I'll auto fit everything, and then from the Page Layout tab I'm going to make sure it always fits in 1 page wide, and that the first row is always repeated at the top. And stop recording. Now I'll go and test it on the South sheet. Control Shift R. Brilliant. Now let's have a look at the Visual Basic. You can either go via the Visual Basic button, but you might have to search for the macro. So I'm going to go to the Macros button and click on Edit. Now the Visual Basic editor has opened and there's all kinds of scary coding in there. To get back to my workbook, I just need to close. When you open a workbook that contains a macro, you'll get a security warning and you'll need to enable the content. To change the settings for macros on your computer, you can go to File, Options and then the Trust Center, or you can go to Macro Security and you'll already be there. To delete a macro, you can go to the Macros button again, locate your macro and click Delete. In this tutorial, you've seen how to create and use a simple macro.